Welcome to the deep dive. Businesses often obsess over their products, their services, their market share, loads of things. But what if I told you the single most fundamental thing, the real bedrock of success or failure, isn't really any of those. It's their people. So how do companies truly manage their most valuable and, let's face it, often most dynamic asset? What actually goes into that? Let's try and unpack this a bit.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here and often sort of missed is that for most companies, the biggest spend isn't materials or machines, it's personnel. So this isn't just about the mechanics of hiring and firing. Human resources, HR, it's actually a strategic powerhouse these days. Understanding its role is just, well, critical for any competitive advantage today. It really is.
Exactly. That's why our mission for this deep dive is to cut through some of the noise. We're going to explore the essential and definitely evolving role of human resources. We'll unpack the profound shifts happening across the global workforce and hopefully discover what it genuinely means to manage people in a business landscape that's, frankly, constantly transforming. To guide us, we'll be drawing some really powerful insights from the Human Resources Basics.PDF you shared. Should give you a clear, concise picture. So let's kick things off with the core purpose of HR. Okay, the material we've looked at puts its primary goal pretty simply, ensuring the right people are in the right jobs at the right time. But what does that really mean in practice, especially now? It means HR is constantly focused on attracting the best talent, cultivating genuinely productive environments, and enabling continuous skill development so employees can actually adapt to these ever-changing job demands.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of strategic alignment, it isn't just, a nice to have, it's absolutely vital. It's really what guarantees employees are available, capable, and crucially, willing to work. That directly drives business success and that competitive edge we talked about. But maybe the real insight here is how dynamic the right people and the right jobs have become. It seems less about finding a static perfect match and much more about building a system for constant adaptation and growth. It has to be flexible.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for a business's bottom line then? It really means HR is right at the heart of not just managing, but truly optimizing human potential. And that emphasis on human potential leads us straight to a crucial question. How is the very nature of the workforce changing? I mean, when we talk about workforce, what are we actually defining? It's basically all the eligible people who are either employed or actively looking for a job, right?
Mm-hmm. And just to give you a tangible example, if we look at Saudi Arabia, there, individuals can technically start working from age 15, though under specific constraints. And back in 2021, the national workforce was already over 16 million people. So that gives you a sense of scale for the human element we're discussing here.
Right, 16 million. And when you analyze developed economies, industries generally fall into two broad categories. You've got your service-providing industries, think healthcare, finance, retail, transport, basically delivering intangible services. And then there are the goods-producing industries like construction, manufacturing, mining, agriculture, the ones focused on creating physical products.
Yeah, and what's particularly significant, and this connects to those wider global shifts, is the economic diversification happening even in places traditionally rich in resources. So while sectors like oil, gas, mining are still strong in Saudi Arabia, for instance, there's a really pronounced strategic shift happening towards emerging opportunities in, say, hospitality, tourism, cybersecurity, AI, clean energy, finance. And this isn't just a numbers game. It fundamentally alters the skills businesses need and prioritize. It's moving beyond just manual dexterity towards things like maybe emotional intelligence, complex problem solving, different skill sets entirely.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how this evolution changes even the language we use for jobs. We used to talk mainly about white-collar workers, office jobs, information-based work, versus blue-collar workers whose jobs typically involve more physical labor. But with the massive growth in service sectors, we've seen this rise of a kind of new class, service workers. And their roles are just constantly being redefined by technology and shifting consumer demands. Okay, so here's where it gets really impactful, I think. What are the core influences driving all this workforce evolution? The material we're looking at points to a pretty powerful combination. Changing consumer preferences, sure, economic cycles, definitely, but also the relentless march of new technologies and just intense business competition.
Oh, absolutely. Technology's role in particular has just reshaped entire industries. Think about modern advances like AI, 3D printing, robotics. They've dramatically reduced the need for production workers in traditional manufacturing, like steel or auto plants. And similarly, sophisticated cloud-based communication systems mean fewer administrative roles, fewer office employees needed, maybe even fewer accountants in some areas. which naturally raises a pretty big question. What happens when all these routine tasks get automated?
And that leads us directly to that other force, business competition. Because to stay competitive, companies are constantly searching for talented, entrepreneurial, and highly skilled human capital. That's the phrase used. This intense pressure for efficiency often leads to things like downsizing, which is, a planned reduction in employees just to cut costs, or outsourcing, moving work from your company to another one, usually for lower cost. And just for context, that Saudi outsourcing market alone was worth roughly 10 billion Saudi riyals back in 2021. That's significant. It actually reminds me of that conversation between Sami and Ali in the source material. They're grappling with this exact question: will robots take all the jobs? Their conclusion was actually pretty insightful, I thought. They said there are probably lots of things robots can't do. Plus, even if computers and robots are able to complete even more complex tasks in the future, people will still be responsible for planning and programming the work. That planning part is key.
It absolutely is, because at the end of the day, the creativity, the unique personalities, the intangible skills of human employees, that's what truly differentiates a business and drives it forward. This isn't just about efficiency. It's really about competitive identity, which I suppose raises another important question. As automation keeps advancing, how do we strategically adapt? How do we leverage these uniquely human traits in an increasingly automated world?
Good question. So after all this talk about the strategic importance of HR, what does an actual HR department look like? From the inside, it's often, as the material suggests, a collection of specialists, right? Working closely with managers and employees to ensure that workforce is, available, capable, and compensated fairly for what they do. And if you've ever thought about a career in this field, the opportunities seem incredibly diverse. I mean, we're talking about roles like Director of Human Resources, obviously, but also benefits specialist, employment recruiter, employee relations manager, organizational development consultant, training specialist, even things like an EEO affirmative action representative, making sure employment practices are fair. Then you've got labor contracts negotiators and job analysts figuring out what roles actually entail. Lots of variety.
Yeah, and Amina's story from the source material really brings one of those roles, the corporate trainer, to life, doesn't it? She's a trainer for a Saudi chemical production company, and her career path is fascinating. Started as a high school science teacher, then spent 5 years as a lab specialist, and now she kind of masterfully blends her passions, teaching science and helping her coworkers grow, her responsibilities, meeting with managers to figure out training needs, working with instructional designers on materials, and staying totally up to date with educational tech so she can deliver training to employees literally all over the world. It really highlights how these roles aren't just admin. They're dynamic, deeply impactful.
Okay, so to try and bring it all together, let's quickly summarize the 7 major goals of HR that the source outlines. These all connect directly to maintaining that productive, efficient workforce we've been discussing. First, identify the company's personnel needs. What do we actually need? Second, maintain an adequate supply of people for future needs. Planning ahead. Third, thoughtfully match abilities and interests with specific jobs. The right fit. Fourth, provide ongoing training and development. Keep skills sharp. Prepare for change. Fifth is developing fair and motivating compensation plans. Pay and benefits. Sixth, protect employee health and overall well-being, safety and wellness. And finally, seventh, cultivate a productive and satisfying work environment. Culture matters.
Exactly. And all these vital goals, they translate into 4 practical, sort of interconnected categories of HR activities, how they actually do it. First, there's planning and staffing. That's all about strategically identifying jobs and filling them with qualified people, the recruitment piece. Second, compensation and benefits. This covers everything from payroll and keeping personnel records to managing those complex benefits programs. Third is performance management. This focuses on evaluating employee work, yes, but also continuously improving performance through training and development, feedback loops. And fourth, employee relations. This is really about maintaining a safe, healthy, and genuinely productive work environment for everyone involved.
Okay. We've really taken a deep dive today into the world of human resources, covered everything from its foundational goals and strategic importance right through to the dynamic forces shaping its future. Hopefully, you now have a pretty solid understanding of how companies not only invest in, but also meticulously manage their most vital asset, which is, of course, their people.
And as we've seen, the workforce is just in this state of constant evolution. It's driven by relentless technological and economic shifts, which really brings us to a final maybe provocative thought, considering the continued rapid advancements in things like AI and automation. How might the role of HR professionals need to evolve even further, not just for productivity, but to ensure the well-being, the unique contribution, maybe just the humanity of employees in the workplace of tomorrow? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Keep those questions in mind as you navigate your own career path, or maybe just consider the organizations around you. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.